Hey, good looking. You want to see what we have cooking today in my kitchen? Well, grab a hold of that fine, swing right on in my kitchen, and let's get cooking. Good looking. Hey there, good looking. I'm so glad that you came in my kitchen today because, boy, do I have a very unique recipe to make some meatballs. Now, my brother-in-law, Tom, he's the one that sat there and made some meatloaf. And, well, we tried the meatloaf. We really enjoyed the meatloaf, but I enjoy meatballs more than I like meatloaf. So we're going to sit there and make up some meatballs. So what you're going to be needing is 2 eggs. So crack open the 2 eggs. Add them right on in. You're going to be needing 1 teaspoon of the jus. So I'm going to grab a teaspoon of that. Put that right on in. You're also going to be needing 1/4 of a teaspoon of the garlic powder. You're going to be needing 1/4 teaspoon of dried minced garlic. So go ahead and put that in. You're going to be needing 1/2 of a teaspoon of mushroom powder. So let's go and do that. We're going to be needing 1 cup of water, but first, before I go any further, we're just going to set the 1 cup of water down. You're going to need 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Now, with this baking soda, dip it right on into the water. We're going to sit there, give this all a good stir just to mix up the baking soda into the water. Dump that all in. We're going to be needing at least a tablespoon of the dried minced onion, 1 teaspoon of the onion powder, 2 tablespoons of the French onion soup mix, now this is really important when we're adding any type of a stovetop stuffing mix. You do not want to sit there and use chicken stovetop stuffing or the turkey stovetop stuffing. No. Why? Because sage is not canning friendly. So we use the pork flavor. So let's go ahead, get our stuffing, add our stuffing to this. And basically that's it, besides the 1 pound of meat, ground beef. And I happen to be using 93.7 a ground beef. Now, like I say, just get this all a good mix. We're going to let this sit for at least 15 to 20 minutes. Just to let the stuffing mixed absorb into the meat. And for the baking soda to do its little trick. Now trust me, you're not going to want to leave out the baking soda. I know it sounds really funny adding baking soda to the ground beef, but it does really work. And the end result will be a great little meatball. So, just give this all a good mix. And like I said, leave this sit for 15 minutes. Okay, while we're waiting for that baking soda to sit there and do its little magic, and for the stuffing to absorb all the water and stuff and become a little bit more easier to work into the meatball, I want to sit there and talk about the reason why we went ahead and we added the baking soda to the ground beef. Well, what it does, it raises the pH on the meat, basically making it more difficult for those proteins in the meat to bond. And it also allows the meat to stay tender as it is cooking. That's the whole reason why we add the 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Now, if I was using 2 pounds of hamburger, I would sit there and use half of a teaspoon. So basically, for every pound of ground beef, you would sit there and use 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. I hope I made that clear for y'all to understand. And now we're just going to sit there and give this another little mixing just to make sure we have all the party coming together inside this bowl. And then I'm going to sit there and start making some meatballs. And I am just going to sit there and partially cook them until they're just turning in color. We don't want to go any further than that. Now, for making the meatballs, I like to get my meatballs as uniform as I can. Now, you can use the little cookie scoop, or you could sit there and take your 1 tablespoon and just go ahead, measure up to 1 tablespoon, and roll them into the little meatballs, just as such. So, I'm gonna sit there and make my meatballs all the same. Remove it and just roll it right on into a meatball. So I'll be back when I'm all done making the meatballs. Okay, I made the meatballs. Now I'm just gonna sit there and just put some color on them. We're not gonna cook them any further than that. Remember, we're just par cooking them to give them a tan. Okay, I par cooked them. I'm just gonna set my other meatballs just off to the side for now while I grab the meatballs that I just part cooked. See, I just sat there and gave them a good tan. And that's what I want you to do. I don't want you to sit there and go any further than that. In fact, I've only sat there and cooked these up for like less than 2 minutes. So let's go ahead, remove the meatballs, and put them into our canning jars. Now, I've already done this in a meatloaf form, and I'm going to sit there and show you a little error that I did when I was making it into a meatloaf. I mean, you could make it into a meatloaf, but if you are, I want to sit there and give you a heads up. Usually you would give your jars a 1-inch headspace, but if you're going to make this recipe into meatloaves, please allow yourself 1.5-inch to 2-inch headspace. Well, was this an epic fail, or was it a success? I'm chopping it as an epic fail, and it's not always the canning that is to blame. This one I'm blaming on user error, which would be me. Now, remember I told you 1-inch headspace? Well, the next time I can up meatloaf, I'm going to be giving it a good 1.5-inch headspace. I might go 2, because when I pulled this out of my pressure canner, I had a lot of seepage that came out of the jar. Well, I went ahead, I washed it all up. You could see around the top here where there's a lot that seeped out. But look, it still is sealed. Would I trust this on my pantry shelf? No, I wouldn't. So when I have an epic fail, as I do here, we eat this up right away. I ain't putting it on my pantry shelves, nor do I want any of you to put anything as such onto your pantry shelves. Now, like I said, I'm going to be redoing this video because I am considering this one an epic fail. Learn by my error. Now, I can get 1 or 2 more in there. So, I think that's pretty well good. I'm going to go on to my next one. And I'm going to use these meatballs for like meatball subs. And I'm going to use them in spaghetti. Now, I'm just going to sit there and tan up the rest of my meatballs. So, I'll be back when all these are just tanned up like the first batch. Okay, there we go. So, off they go to get their tan. Okay, this set of meatballs, they got their tan on, just like the first group. So, I'm going to grab these, and we're going to add them to our canning jars just as well. Now that I have my meatballs down into the canning jars, so I have out my little container here that I've been using this canning season. It's usually used for putting fingernail polish in, and well, I'm not doing that. I put my vinegar in so I can just go up and get some vinegar on a clean wash rag. I'm not using paper toweling. I chose to opt out of that because the way that the prices are going in this country right now, I'm not going to spend that amount of money on paper towels when I could sit there and put that money towards a food purchase. So I choose just to use a clean wash rag. Now that we ran the vinegar over the rims of our jars, and we checked to make sure that there was no nicks or cracks or any of the ground beef mixture that got onto the rim of the canning jars. Now, before we go any further, I want to sit there and say that this is not a USDA approved recipe. This is considered a rebel canning recipe. You can it if you want to. If you don't want to can it, that's fine. I'm just showing you the way that I do it in my kitchen. I've been doing it for a while, and we do enjoy having our meatballs for, like I told you, either I have so many recipes that you can use these in. So that's why I'm choosing to make meatballs. Now I finger tightened my jars on. As you see, I'm dry packing them. You can also add liquid if you want. If I was going to add a liquid, I would either use beef bouillon or a French onion soup. You could also sit there and put these in a mushroom soup base too. And I'm using my Instapot Max pressure canner. Now, I can't give enough praise to my Instapot Max canner. I love the world out of it. I really do. I had a Carry electric pressure canner. I adored the heck out of that, but I love my Instapot Max pressure canner a whole lot better than my Carry. I feel a lot more comfortabler using my Instapot Max for one simple reason. It tells me the temperature that's on the inside of the pressure canner. And now here's another word of advice. You're going to want to sit there and have the inside temperature of your pressure canners at least 240 to 250 degrees to kill off any botulism spores. Now that's what I love the most out of my little baby here. It tells me exactly if I'm in the kill zone or if I'm not. Okay, my jars are inside my pressure cooker. I'm just gonna put the weight on, or the lid on. Now, as you see up here, all this is programmed in. I have it at Fahrenheit. I have my altitude all set. Now, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to push the cooking time. Now, I'm going to turn this number to 15. We're going to come over here and we're going to sit there and now can it for 75 minutes because these are pints. If you're doing quarts, it would be 90 minutes. Now, I'm going to come down here. We're going to push start. Now it's telling me the temperature on the inside of my Instapot right now is at roughly about 82 degrees. This is going to be building up the pressure, and don't be surprised if you hear a psst, psst, psst. It's just releasing the pressure on the inside of your pressure canner, just like it does up on your stove top. And then once it comes up to pressure, instead of this showing on, you'll sit there and see your time. And it'll start out with 1 hour and 15 minutes. Now, I like paying the greatest attention to this temperature. Now remember I told you, in order to kill off any botulism spores, you're going to want the inside temperature of our pressure canner to be at 240 all the way up to 250 degrees. So if you're in that range, you know you're in the kill zone. If you're under that, I really wouldn't trust leaving these up on your shelf. I would sit there and use up them foods immediately. So, this is going to light up all the way across. We're also going to do a natural release. Now, you can sit here and watch while it's building up pressure. This temperature is going to be going up and up and up. Like I said, it will do its own venting, and then it will sit there and do the processing time. Basically, it's another set it and forget it. But I pay attention to the temperature. So we'll be back in a little bit. Here you see the temperature is 125. It's still building up the pressure on the inside of the Instapot pressure canner, and then it's going to start venting. Like I said, you're going to hear psh, psh, psh. And that's just like what would happen if you were on a stovetop one. And also, as you see, like I told you, this is going to start lighting up all across the top. As you see right here. And there you go. There's that. It's venting. And as you see, the temperature is at 220 degrees. The temperature is now at 239. We're coming right up to there's a 240. Now we know that we're in the kill zone for the botulism spores. It just jumped up to 242. So I'm right in the kill zone. Now, most of the time, since I've been using this, my temperature goes all the way up to 248 to 249. So I know I'm at the kill zone. Oh, and there she goes. Now we're in the processing time. So 75 minutes later, we'll be seeing you. And like I said, I like this one because of the temperature. It's telling me exactly the temperature that the inside of my pressure canner is at. You don't even get that with the stovetop. And right now it's going between 244 and 246. We're at 247 degrees. Like I said, we're in the kill zone, baby. 248. Here you go. They are fresh out of the canner. Now, leave these sit for 24 hours. Then we're going to come back, remove the canning rings. We're going to wash the jars down. Then we label them. Now, if you truly liked what you saw here today and you appreciate this canning recipe, please give me some love, give me some thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. It helps my channel grow. And if you're a new member to our family here, welcome. If you're not yet a subscriber, go up, hit that subscribe button, tap that little bell. That way you'll always be notified every time I do put out a new video. And as always, here's to happy canning, but better yet, happy eatings. Y'all come back now, you hear?